Coming up on Look Today, well, the village of Lake George announces the construction of a monument depicting Native Americans and others connected to the French and Indian War. I've got details. And Matt Veach, Saratoga County Supervisor, held a presentation last night on urban renewal projects, the history of in Saratoga Springs. More on that coming up. Plus, the Lake George Arts Project is featuring work by artist Andrea Hirsch. I've got some of those details. It's all ahead on Look Today. Welcome everyone, I'm Jay Hood Jackson and this is Look Today. Well, in tonight's program I sit down with Laura Greenaway. She's a development director for the American Diabetes Association. We're joined by John Davidson. John is a co-owner of Davidson Brothers Brewery in Glens Falls. They're here to talk about the Tour de Cure race that's happening this June. I also sit down with Sarah DiPasquale. Now she's assistant professor of dance at Skidmore. And she's here to talk about the Dance Alliance event that's happening in Saratoga this Sunday. Plus, we've got your weather for the Tri-North counties, but first, these headline stories. Well, in our lead story, the village of Lake George announced today that it will receive a prominent historical landmark. Rod and Kim Cornelius, local residents, have successfully raised close to $60,000 to commission a life-size canoe depicting Native Americans and others connected to the French and Indian War. While we were at the announcement, we spoke to Mayor Bob Blaze of Lake George.
But he's already raised, in a little over a month, raised about $65,000. And the artist in residence all summer, of course, will have some expenses, but we've been able, through the Fort William Henry and through some private donors, found housing for the artist. And I think it's going to be a total gift.
Now, members of the French and Indian War Society are working with artist Paul Stark to ensure the accuracy of the sculpture and its depiction. Well, we had a chance to talk to the artist, Paul Stark.
It takes me, probably for this project, 3 weeks to rough it out with a chainsaw. And then I go into the detail. I use power tools called die grinders, body grinders, and routers, and do the next detail process. And then the last process is sanding by hand and finishing.
Now, we're going to be following this project in the months to come. We'll keep you posted. In other news, well, in honor of the 40th anniversary of the Saratoga Springs Preservation Foundation, they're taking a look at historic preservation in Saratoga Springs over the last 100 years. Matt Veach, current Saratoga County Supervisor, held a presentation last night, the Urban Renewal Project at the Universal Preservation Hall. Now, the presentation delved into the deep history of Saratoga's urban development, unveiling 100-year-old photographs. Now, there were many pros and cons to urban development, as we all know. Those who were in favor at the time especially believed that decaying buildings should be torn down, while others, more nostalgic of Saratoga's Victorian architecture and history and culture, and trying to preserve it. Well, one member of the audience posed a question regarding the destruction of an entire neighborhood, which caused many African Americans to leave Saratoga. Well, we were at the presentation where Matt Veach spoke in response to this question. Just a quick sidebar here. We had to shoot in the auditorium there when the lights were down, so the video is dark. I apologize for that.
There's ways to look at it, I'll say, but I agree with you in the sense that, since that time period and moving forward, at least till now, we've lost that community in our city. We don't have an African American community that's very large in Saratoga Springs, very small now.
It's good that people recognize that now, but at the time, I remember clearly, even in the town that I grew up in, if it was old, you just tore it down. A lot of history was lost that way. Switching from news to weather. Well, today saw overcast skies, temperatures in the high 30s. Let's see how the rest of the week is shaping up for a more detailed look at our weather. We're going to head to the Glens Falls Weather Center for a look at your first forecast.
Thank you, Jesse. As we take a look at the forecast update, continuing through over the evening hours and overnight, we're going to be seeing high pressure brushing by across portions of northern Canada. The very southern edge of that continues to breeze through here, giving us some clearing ahead of our next system that's really getting going across portions of the plains, the upper Midwest, and into the southeast. Could really see a big time severe weather threat, especially in spots right behind this frontal boundary where this warm, muggy air will continue to pour on in through the overnight hours into the daytime tomorrow, then setting up very good conditions for a pretty big tornado threat, especially across northern portions of Mississippi and western Tennessee. For us, a calmer forecast, thankfully. Will be chilly tonight as we'll see those clouds doing their best to break up. 29 Scranton, Albany 28 across the region, Bangor 28 degrees. 26 degrees here in the Glens Falls area. We'll see clouds clearing back out. Chilly night, especially with a bit of a breeze with us. Could knock wind chills back down as cold as 15 to 19 degrees earlier on tomorrow morning. But then the sunshine will be back out in full force for our Thursday highs. At least in the lower elevations, we'll be warming back up nicely into the upper 40s. So as we walk out the door tomorrow morning, keep the jacket handy. 26 to 30 degrees around the 8 to 9 a.m. hour. We'll see wind chills still in the lower 20s thanks to the north wind between 3 to 8 miles an hour. As we look ahead in the forecast for the coming days, some wet weather potential with us, even some chance of snow as temperatures have cooled off a bit for the projected high Friday. We're right now looking at 35 degrees. Some lighter snow as part of that bigger system, especially with that low pressure region brushing by down to our south. High 40 on Saturday, still a 70% chance of rain. And finally, as we look ahead to Sunday and Monday, we'll see more sunshine back in the picture and temperatures getting back up in the upper 40s for afternoon highs. Well, that's it from the First Look Weather Center. Now let's send it back to you, Jesse.
Thanks, Bran. Back to the news. Well, Lake George Arts Project is currently hosting local artist Andrea Hirsch. Now, the Courthouse Gallery is located on Canada Street in Lake George. Andrea specializes in surreal drawings and sculptures. Her exhibition will run until April 14th. Well, we were at the gallery where we spoke to Laura Von Ross. She's the gallery director for Lake George Arts Project.
Right now we have Andrea Hirsch, who's from the Albany area, and she had some training as a printmaker, and now she's a painter, she's doing sculpture. This show is up until April 14th.
That's a very nice gallery, by the way. If you're in Lake George Village, make it a point to stop in. Up next, I sit down with Laura Greenaway. She's a development director for the American Diabetes Association, and we're joined by John Davidson. He's co-owner of Davidson Brothers Brewery in Glens Falls. They're here to talk about the Tour de Cure race that's happening this June. Plus, I also sit down with Sarah DiPasquale. Now, she's assistant professor of dance at Skidmore. She's here to talk about the Dance Alliance event in Saratoga Springs. It's happening this Sunday. But first, if you see news happening, you want to share a story idea, how about join us for an interview? Then you can give us a call on our hotline. The number is 798-8000. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition of Look Today. We're running a little tight on time, so I'll be quick with this. Just a reminder, there's a public meeting tonight, Saratoga Public Library, if you catch an early version of this program, concerning the Saratoga City Charter, in case you want to attend that. And the other lookout has to go to Rod and Kim Cornelius. I don't think we've ever met, Rod and Kim, but I really want to commend you for undertaking this project in Lake George with this sculpture, the French and Indian War sculpture. So you get the lookout. And last but not least, please go to Facebook. We're getting some really nice comments from viewers about what we're doing, and we want to keep this conversation going. So please go to Facebook and tell us what you think, pro and con, okay? Tonight on Look TV, it's a Saratoga City Council meeting, and don't forget, tune in tomorrow night for the stories that matter to you. Good night, everyone.